Classes are great for so many reasons, and for that I still keep them in most of my athletes' training schedules. However, they're not good enough to break through the struggles that scaled and intermediate athletes face on the daily. And if they were, I wouldn't have already successfully worked with 700 athletes across the globe to break through these barriers, gain new skills, and hit new PBs within their training. I'm going to explain the exact 5 reasons that classes don't work, and over the next few minutes I'll go into each of these in detail. Let's start with coaching time. And to be clear, before I moved into the online space, I was a class coach, so this is coming from my own experience. When I used to lead a class, here were some of the responsibilities that I had to do. So I had to open up the gym and then close it again. Had to make sure that I said hey to every member that came through the door and I used their name, asked them something about their day. I needed to ensure that I'd safely set up the equipment and that between sections I made sure things were put in the right spot and everything was fine and dandy. I had to introduce any new members to the gym, show them around, get them to fill in a waiver, again, ask them a bit about themselves, had to write some notes to pass on to the person who owned the gym. More importantly, I had to make sure that the class ran smoothly, that I explained exactly what was meant to happen and re-explained to all the people who didn't listen, organise people into their groups, get the timer ready, and ultimately my main job was focused around logistics. I needed to make sure there was a safe space for people to train, the session made sense, and members left happy. Very little of my time spent within that hour with the 30 members that I had was actually spent coaching. Sometimes I would, sometimes I'd get around and speak to a few members and correct the odd thing here and there, but the priority of my time wasn't really on the coaching, it was more spent on the logistics. And this terrible pie chart that I have drawn is meant to represent that. And I'm not bagging out class coaches because it's not really in their job description to coach. It's in their job description to make sure that the class runs smoothly. And this is one massive problem where athletes get stuck when they actually want to progress in their performance because they're relying on their class coach to help them, but really that's not the priority of the coach. In the same kind of way, in a class-based gym, we have the problem of too many cooks. Typically, as a member, you will be exposed to several different coaches and all of them have their own different ways of explaining things and methods of how they get athletes from A to B to C. In fact, I distinctly remember so many occasions in one gym that I worked at, I would go around, make corrections to athletes' form. I'd come back to the same athlete in 10 minutes and they were doing something completely different. I'd ask them, why did you change that? And they told me the other class coach came around and told them to do something different. And this is just one of many examples that I've seen and conversations I've had with athletes where they're being told one thing by coach A, a different thing by coach B, and a completely different thing by coach C. And for that reason, the athlete is left spinning in circles instead of having a clear pathway on how to take them forwards. Another issue we face is fast-paced programming. Ultimately, the goals of a gym are to retain its member base. And to do that, they need to provide a class that is enjoyable, gets a good sweat on, lets members leave the gym feeling like that they've worked hard and had fun with their friends. There's not really the urgency in the class program to be working on specific drills that are often boring and monotonous, or to work with an athlete specifically through a pathway to a certain skill. Some gyms are really great and they have specific gymnastic classes or Olympic lifting classes, but maybe these are only once a week and they're still led in the class-based format. So ultimately, the priorities of the class are a fast-paced program, something that is changing, enjoyable, gets a good sweat on, but it's not designed to break plateaus that scale and intermediate level athletes face on the daily. Another problem with the program is, where is the rest? This is a little depiction of how I program for my athletes. We have 6 weeks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which is the typical length of a cycle that I coach. Now, from weeks 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, we progressively overload the athlete with difficulty, with intensity, and over these weeks, the athlete makes stepwise progressions in what we're working on, whatever that is. Every athlete is different. Then we have a structured deload in week 5. And this is so important because if we try to continue increasing the intensity of their session every single week, we'd get to a point very quickly where the athlete would burn out, become injured, become disinterested, and end up back at square one. This deload week allows us to rest, recover, and adapt from the training cycle, and then give an opportunity for the athlete in week 6 to peak. And this is where we see PBs. However, in a class-based structure, we can't really follow this. And I've actually asked a specific class coach before, Why is there never a deload in the classes? Like, why do we never have this rest week? And the honest answer I got given was if a new member turned up in a deload week, they wouldn't sign for a membership and we would lose revenue. So instead of this stepwise program, we keep all the weeks roughly the same so that no matter when an athlete joins, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and they're going to keep coming back. In order to experience regular wins and PBs, we need your training weeks to be structured in a cycle like this, where there are clear times and moments within the training year where we expect to see PBs. If not, random training weeks pieced together give random results. And problem 5 is that classes are for the masses. Not really the masses, because I only drew 4 people, but here are 4 people in the class. We've got person over here on the left, they're training 3 days a week. They're working on their fitness. They're pretty immobile. That's why I drew them as a boy. Next person, we've got little old Sally. She's got plantar fasciitis. She wants to hit a toaster bar. She's pretty consistent. She's there 5 days a week. Next up down the bottom, we have Peter. Next week, he's competing for a high rocks. He's just, here to be here. Person up here, we've got Jenny. She's got a really sore knee. It's actually her first day. She's brand new to the gym. All these people have completely different needs. They have completely different bodies. They have different goals, different reasons for being there. And the class really has to include all of these people successfully. What the class fails to do is to look at you as an individual. What is your current ability level? What skills are you working on? Where are your weak points? Where are you trying to go? What are your personal goals? Are you working on gymnastics? If so, what skills? Are you working on strength? If so, what lifts? Are you working on fitness? If so, what for? What are your limitations? Do you have an injury or a niggle that's holding you back, or are you good to go? Do you need to work on mobility? Do you need to work on stability before the session? And finally, what is your time frame? How much time do you have each week to be spending on your goals, and therefore, where do your priorities lie in the training week? These points can only get properly addressed through a program. A class-based structure is never going to be able to hit these on the mark for you as an individual because it's not designed to. It's designed to include all of the people in the class successfully and leave all of them to feel like they've left the gym having a good workout. In this video, I covered 5 different reasons why I think classes are holding you back. If you really want to advance in your performance and break through those annoying plateaus that hold scaled and intermediate levels back, I've created another video that you should definitely check out. I run through a 9-stage model on exactly what you need to do to break through those plateaus and start seeing real progress within your training.